The world's attention is once again fixed on the Middle East, as tensions between Israel and Iran escalate. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway and vital artery for global trade, is back in the spotlight. Tehran's threats to close the strait resurface with every hostile exchange, raising fears of economic chaos. This is a familiar story, but the stakes are higher than ever. The conflict is now more direct, increasing the risk of miscalculation and regional escalation. The strait's strategic importance makes it a prime target for economic warfare, where a single act could disrupt nations worldwide. The flow of oil through Hormuz is the lifeblood of modern economies. Recent tensions have rattled energy markets as analysts scramble to assess Iran's intentions. For Iran, the strait is its ultimate leverage, a powerful card to deter adversaries and shape international responses. The world watches, knowing that what happens here could reverberate across the globe. The Strait of Hormuz is a slender 2-mile-wide shipping lane connecting the Persian Gulf to the open sea. Nearly 1/5 of the world's oil and a significant share of its natural gas pass through daily. Iran's northern coastline gives it a commanding position over this choke point. Dozens of massive tankers navigate these narrow waters, making them vulnerable to disruption. For energy-hungry nations like China, Japan, and India, Hormuz is an economic lifeline. Even a brief closure would trigger a global energy crisis, with soaring prices and potential unrest. The strait's unique geography and strategic value ensure that any conflict here sends shockwaves worldwide. Iran has turned its geography into a military advantage at Hormuz. Instead of matching U.S. naval power, Iran relies on swarm tactics, deploying fast, armed speedboats from hidden bases. Fortified islands bristling with missiles and radar create a kill zone across the strait. Naval mines add another layer of threat, as even rumors of their presence can halt shipping. History shows Iran's willingness to harass and seize tankers, sending calibrated messages to its adversaries. This asymmetric strategy keeps the world on edge, allowing Iran to punch above its weight. By holding the keys to Hormuz, Iran ensures its voice is heard in any regional crisis. Despite its threats, Iran is unlikely to fully close the Strait of Hormuz. Its own economy depends on the same waterway for vital oil exports. Shutting it down would be economic suicide, cutting off Iran's main revenue and risking domestic unrest. A closure would trigger overwhelming international military action, likely led by the U.S. Navy. Even China, Iran's key partner, would not tolerate a move that threatens global energy supplies. The threat of closure is more valuable to Iran than the act itself, a tool for leverage, not destruction. Actually carrying out the threat would isolate Iran and invite devastating consequences. Tehran knows that keeping the world guessing is its best strategy. America's energy revolution has changed the game. The U.S. is now a top oil producer, no longer dependent on Hormuz for its own supply. This shift gives Washington more flexibility and less urgency in Middle East crises. The U.S. focus has moved from protecting its own energy to ensuring global market stability and supporting allies. While the military presence remains, the appetite for intervention has waned. Iran's threat to close Hormuz no longer wields the same power over Washington. The risk of an oil shock is less dire for the U.S., forcing Iran to rethink its strategy. Now, Iran's ultimate threat may provoke a military response without crippling its main adversary. Unlike the U.S., Asian giants like China, Japan, and India remain deeply vulnerable to disruptions at Hormuz. For them, the strait is an economic lifeline. Any closure would trigger immediate recession and energy shortages. This vulnerability shifts the crisis epicenter to Asia, making these nations the most invested in Gulf stability. Asian countries may prefer diplomacy, while the U.S. could take a harder line, creating potential rifts. Iran can exploit these divisions, framing the crisis as an American problem that punishes the world. Even without a full closure, threats alone drive up insurance and shipping costs, raising global oil prices. Minor acts of harassment can inflict economic pain, making Iran's psychological warfare highly effective. The mere possibility of disruption keeps markets and governments on edge. Iran's threat to close Hormuz is losing its potency. U.S. energy independence and new pipelines in Saudi Arabia and the UAE bypass the strait, reducing panic and price spikes. The global shift toward renewables further erodes Hormuz's strategic value. Iran's oil weapon has a shelf life. The window to use it effectively is closing. Tehran is now more cautious, relying on threats and minor incidents rather than risking all-out closure. The world is building resilience, and Iran's most powerful non-nuclear threat is fading. While Hormuz remains critical, It is no longer the ultimate trump card it once was.